In the summer of 1994, 4 teens entered an abandoned building in Gravesend, Brooklyn. It was the last time they would be seen alive. With few clues and no witnesses, the case went cold. But for Anthony Brewer, the brother of one of the victims, the search never stopped. In 2024, he acquired evidence from the police that contained DNA samples that didn't match the teens. That discovery put his life and the life of his family in grave danger. Goosebumps, The Vanishing. All episodes now available on Disney Plus and Hulu on disneyplus.disney.com. Rated TV 14 LB.
Guys, what's going on? Welcome to the Bear Brain Podcast, where the goal is to rise above it all, stay elevated, create that infinity up your you. I'm your host, Isaiah, and just got back from a very important trip. A very important trip, and it was good for my spirit, good for my heart, good for my mental space, and most importantly, good for my soul. And I just want you to think about whatever matters to you right now, and whoever matters to you right now, will it matter in 7 years? And the significance of 7 years is, I'll explain it in this episode, but just some things we're going to unpack, and I want you to sit on and really, really think about in terms of your life trajectory and the plans you have for yourself, all right? So, yeah, if you're driving, put on your seatbelt. If you're at home, put on your seatbelt. And we are going to unpack some things, and I'm going to share a little bit with you guys. And hopefully this will like give you some kind of perspective, all right? Stay tuned. Hey guys, what's good? How are you? Firstly, I want to shout out the new patrons. If I didn't, Monica Lopez and another Monica. Monica, I don't want to butcher your last name, so please forgive me if I do. Grisgorchik? Maybe that's it. Is that it? Hopefully I got it. Hopefully I got close, but either way, I want to appreciate you being here and being a patron supporter and showing the bird some love. Also, happy birthday to my sister. It's Aries season, y'all, so we hit the ground running. How are you guys? It feels like it's been a while, right? For me, it has. It's, a week away is always like, I don't know, I come back to podcasting and it just feels kind of new for me, very new. And I think, the time I spent away was much time needed because it was time I was invested into some very important bonds. So ask yourself, that when you go into job interviews, right, they ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? What's your 10-year plan? Yada, yada, yada. It's like, well, what does that look like? What does that look like for me? And, one of my best friends, so this year marks 7 years that we've been friends. And this year was the first time we actually met in person. I'll say that again. This is 7 years since we've been friends. And this is the first time we met in person. And, sometimes you say that to people, they're like, wait, how? Like, how does that work? It just works, right? It works when you put in the work. And, we became friends through socials, and we stayed friends outside of social media, right? And the significance and beauty about that friendship is how it came to be from a distance, right? Came to be from a distance. And it literally required both people putting in effort, investment, time over the span of 7 years. 7 years is a long time, right? And, one of the things I've learned to say is it's not about the history of a relationship, but the health of it, the health of your relationships, right? You can know somebody for a very long time and you can just know them, right? You don't grow with them or anything like that. It just becomes commonplace. You guys know each other, and that's pretty much the extent of the relationship. I've known this person for so long, so therefore we're still in each other's lives, versus this is how long I've known this person, and this is the history of our bond. And with my buddy, it's the latter. And I am so grateful for that bond because it reminds me of so many things, right? The reason why I move the way that I do in terms of relationships as a whole, the reason why I have boundaries, the reason why I work so hard to be present when it comes to the people in my life, the reason why I do my best to take care of myself, right? The reason why my goals are a little abstract and different and unconventional from a lot of things and people, because my relationships are very abstract in a lot of ways, in the sense of like the bonds that are closest to me are not based on proximity. None of them are. My closest relationships are not because of proximity. And the reason why I value that so much is because when I step into any conversation about what friendship looks like or about what a bond looks like, I have a very unique experience that kind of is a trump card in a lot of ways in terms of what people talk about friendship or relationships of any kind should look like. The reason why is because mine doesn't look like that, and it's been thriving for 7 years. For 7 years, right? And they say if you're still friends with somebody after 7 years, the likelihood is you'll be friends for life. And I used to think that, right? There were some friends I had, and it was like, I've known them for longer than 7 years. But it's funny because after that time, I got to see who I was friends with. Who was the person that I was friends with for 7 years versus building a bond with somebody over the span of 7 years. You get me? It's a different perspective, right? Because with this particular friendship, every year is something that I'm grateful for. And it's every year I try to pour even more, right? Sometimes when things are so familiar to us, we get very comfortable and we stop trying and we stop caring, right? Because the expectation is that this thing or this person is always going to be there. And that's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. Time is very precious, right? Energy is currency. Time is currency, right? The heart space that you allow, that's all currency. So if you go through life having this expectation that people are always going to be there, you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're also doing that other person a disservice. The reason why is because when they're no longer there, you're going to realize, or maybe you won't, right? And for them, the disservice comes because they're not being acknowledged and valued to the capacity that they should be while they are present. If there's one thing that you learn to do not choose people based off of convenience. Don't choose things based off of convenience, because I can promise you the best things that you achieve in this life will not be convenient. Will not be convenient. They might be a little bit uncomfortable, might require a little bit of work on your end, but the best things that you will attain in this life will not necessarily be based on convenience. My relationships are not founded on convenience at all. Actually, it's the exact opposite. The exact opposite. And I love that because it's not a challenge for me, right? It's more about, all right, cool. How do I do this? Right? The relationship in itself is not a challenge. It's not even convenient. And I'm glad, because that lets me know this is something that's invaluable to me that I'm willing to show up for, and vice versa. Don't choose life out of convenience. Don't choose people out of convenience, okay? You get me? So, this is all to say, will this matter in 7 years? 7 is a kind of like a good luck number for me for some reason. I don't know. 7 has always been significant. There's a couple of numbers that are significant to me. 7 is one of them. But there's so much I can say about it, like our friendship, and there's so much I don't even want to. Right? Because I recognize that, like, I was telling a friend of mine, they're like, "You're not posting on social media much, so you must be having a good time." I was like, you know what? I am, but also it's a bond that I just don't necessarily want to share with everybody else right now. Right? It's something that I want to hold close and sacred because it's of that much value to me. Right? Will this matter in 7 years? Absolutely. And there are so many other variables that are going to come up in the next 7 years that I know. I ran into, man, and I don't believe in coincidences at all. I think everything is supposed to happen for a reason. While I was visiting my buddy for the first time, I ran into someone that I haven't seen or talked to in probably over 20 years, who at one point in time was one of my closest friends. And the dynamic of that was so interesting to just kind of process, because here I am in a current season of friendship that's healthy and that's blossoming, and then there's this other friendship that kind of ran its course. You know what I'm saying? But when we saw each other, it was amazing. And I didn't even recognize him. They happened to recognize me. And it was so wild to just have that experience and just see where both of us were presently, and how the memories of our friendship in the past were there, right? But also a recognition of, like, presently, we're still the same people, but we're very different people in each other's lives. And that's so crazy to think about when you really double down, right? Relationships are they're moving parts, y'all. They're moving parts. They need to be sustained. They need to be maintained, right? In a healthy way. It requires both people caring about the relationship, right? For it to continue to thrive. And at some point, somebody may care more, somebody may not care as much, right? It's a blessing when both people do care about the bond that you guys have. And people care in different ways, I will say that. But you'll know the difference between someone who cares and someone who doesn't. You'll feel it, okay? You'll always feel it. And like I said, there's so much I can say about my experience and my time spent with my bro. And it's so much I just don't have the words for, and I don't even want to find the words, because I'm like, the experience was that was our time, right? That was our time, right? And then thinking about 7 years, I'm like, all right, cool. In 7 years, what is that going to look like? What do I want to have? Where do I want to be? Right? Who do I want around me? Right? So I want you to think about it again. Will this matter in 7 years? Who will matter to me in 7 years? Who will I matter to in 7 years? Things change, right? Seasons change. A lot of moving parts. But I think it's so necessary and vital to just value yourself presently. Value the people in your life presently. And never get comfortable. Never get so comfortable with the people in your life that you forget to value them. You forget to acknowledge them. That includes yourself. That includes yourself. And in the next 7 years, thinking about what matters, your health is going to matter in the next 7 years. The older we get, the more important our health is to us, right? Your finances always going to matter. But in what way? Your lifestyle in 7 years. What does that look like? What does that look like in 7 years? right? As long as you have breath in your lungs and as long as you're functioning, there's always opportunity to learn new things. There's always opportunity to discover more of who you are in a very beautiful way, like exploration. There's so much time, but very little time. And there's so much opportunity to just pour, right? To pour into yourself and what matters and what makes you come alive, if that makes sense. Yeah, I hope what I'm saying makes sense. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, I've been thinking myself, and I got a birthday coming up, and every year around this time I get very thoughtful, right? Obviously I'm always thinking, but another birthday just reminds me of, like, all right, who are you? Do you see who you are? Do you value who you are? How can you take better care of who you are? How can you show that person that they're appreciated? And one of the things I've learned too about life is very, again, life is abstract, right? We try to find consistency in the things that we can, but overall, life in itself is it's a very abstract thing. It's a very abstract thing. There's beauty in that. There's also frustration sometimes. It could be scary. It could be so many things. And that's why it's abstract, because there are a lot of moving parts in terms of what life is. And I know for me, it's like, how do I want to take better care of myself? What does that look like? For starters, definitely my relationships, the people I have in my life, the people I invest energy into. Like, that for me is very crucial. So I'm very intentional about that, right? Because that's time away from myself, right? So I have to be mindful of where I'm spending that time. My habits, right? What do I want to do better? What do I want to be more knowledgeable about? All these things are very important to me. So in the next 7 years, there is just another layer of Isaiah and more discovery of the relationships that Isaiah has, and vice versa, right? My health. That's always been a big thing. And, the way that I think about the health thing, and this is something I say all the time, is like, even if I don't go to the gym every day of the week, right? Exercise is a part of my life. It's a staple, right? I can't not do it. So it's always going to be done, right? If I take a day or two off, that's fine. It's not going to become the rest of my life. That's not who I am. And knowing that gives me a sense of confidence in terms of, like, all right, cool. We know that this is a thing. We can trust in this. We can trust in ourselves to do that. So we don't ruminate too much about that, right? Be sure of the things that you're sure of first. And then you work out, right? Then you work out. I know for me, my relationships, very important. I know what my boundaries look like when it comes to people that I cultivate relationships with, right? So that, to me, at this point in time, I don't have to sort through that, right? I can explore it a little bit more always. I can learn so much more. But at the same time, I know there's a knowing in terms of how I operate in my relationships and what relationships I want to have around me. Even in a professional setting, right? All of these things I'm very aware of, and I actively make it a point to practice that, right? So it's muscle memory, right? Advocate for myself. That's something that I know I'm going to do, and I could do more of it. But in the meantime, I'm building more of a self-advocacy platform because that's necessary. And the more I grow in so many different areas, whether it be in the podcast realm, the writing community, social media, it becomes that much more important for me to be more refined and intentional with how I navigate in my purpose. So I'm always going to be working on and working through those things, right? What is going to matter to me in 7 years? Will this matter to me in 7 years? People, places, and things, right? And like I said, the beautiful thing about the people in our lives is that if we can look back in the years of how long we've spent getting to know someone and building with that person versus just like, yeah, they've been in my life for all this time. That should be even more of an incentive to value that relationship because you guys have gone through seasons together. You weren't just seasons in each other's lives. Okay. I had such an amazing trip, and I'm really grateful for the people that I've chose to be a part of my life and the ones who chose me in return. Really grateful for that because they are some very, very, very special people outside of our bond. And that's why I value them so much because who they are as individuals outside of what they can potentially do for me. Nope. It's not about that. It's about who they are as people. And that's why I value them so much. Right? It's not so much about how someone serves you because sometimes people are only around for what you can do for them. But if you just observe who someone is outside of your influence, that in itself is a reminder. Okay. And yeah, I'm just grateful. Really, it was an amazing trip, an eye-opening trip, heart-opening trip. And it was great. I got to speak to some students as well at my buddy's school. So shout out to those guys if any of them are listening. And they were shout out to Mr. Nelson and Mr. O yeah, for making that happen. They were asking me some amazing questions about podcasting, and they were great questions actually. And the questions that they asked allowed me to reflect on myself and what I've been doing these past almost 5 years. I think the August of this year is going to be the 5-year anniversary for this podcast. And how much it has changed and how much it has stayed the same is so beautiful. And I'm so thankful for that. And I'm so thankful I had the opportunity. I was given the opportunity to speak to some up and coming podcasters, some brilliant minds, man, very brilliant people. And, you know, the opportunity to even do that reminds me that I'm doing what I should be doing. And that's always a blessing too. This podcast in 7 years will matter. It will matter. It will continuously matter for the rest of my life, most likely. And I'm going to make sure of that. Okay. So again, ask yourself, whatever I'm harboring right now, whoever I'm sustaining or trying to have a relationship with, my habits, you know, where I am in life, will this matter in 7 years? Ask yourself that. And ask yourself, why will it matter? And ask yourself, how are you taking care of it currently? Or how are you being taken care of currently? And see what that all looks like for you, okay? Man, oh man. What a time, guys. What a time. But it was great. It was great. And I'm grateful. And again, it just put things into perspective. And I'm so glad the trip happened around my birthday because it's all like encompassing, right? Coming full circle for me. And we just keep going from here. So I think that's all I got. I hope this episode made sense. It's just a little reflective for me, and I hope for you as well. And just ask yourself, will this matter in 7 years? Whatever you're ruminating on, whatever you're trying to work on, whatever you're trying to pursue, whoever you're trying to be, ask yourself why and if it will matter in 7 years. And take a good look around at the people that you hope to have in your life in the next 7 years. All right? So, yeah, that's about it. I have availability for mental health coaching. If you want to sign up, the link is going to be in the description of this episode. Also, if you want to get podcast merch, that's still available. I'll be dropping some new stuff this year for sure. I've been so behind because I've been doing so many things, guys. The coloring book is out. It's being featured in Barnes & Nobles, which is sick. And that I never expected. 7 years ago, if you asked me, you know, Isaiah, what do you think about being an author? I'd have been like, a what? I was still reading, obviously, but like writing a book, no. 7 years ago, never thought of it. Never thought of it. And that just is, a testament to like, there are so many facets of who you are and your experiences, right? Life isn't black and white, and our experiences color who we are. Art imitates life, y'all. And it's such an amazing thing. Yeah, I'm just over here getting to meet Isaiah, basically getting to know who this dude is, and he's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting guy. He's a pretty interesting dude, but he's a good one. But I appreciate you guys tuning in as always. Appreciate the love and the support, and yeah, just keep showing up. Keep being excited to meet yourself and to re-meet yourself, because the more excited you are about that relationship with yourself, I think the more in tune you'll be with the relationships with other people. Okay. So yeah, that's all I got. I think I covered everything. Become a Patreon supporter or Apple subscriber. You get early access, ad-free content, but you also get exclusive bonus episodes that no one else gets to hear. And that's fun, right? But yeah, guys, shout out to my sister on her birthday. She's a badass. And when you talk about watching someone grow through seasons, that is one person I am truly proud of, and the strength behind who she is, and also the grace she carries and how delicate of a person she comes off. But she is a force to be reckoned with. She is a force to be reckoned with, and I appreciate her every day. So, shout out to her on her birthday. Shout out to my besties. Shout out to my bro. Yeah, just a lot of appreciation for the people in my life who give me daily reminders, as to why life is so invaluable, and why the experiences, good, bad, or indifferent, have been turn signals in terms of like just finding myself along the way, but also finding people along the way and being found, right? We all have purpose and significance. Okay, so that's all I got. Take care of yourselves. Yes, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And if there's somebody in your life you haven't really talked to in a while, hit them up and remind them that you value them, and be specific as to why. No one's worse off knowing that they matter. Okay. All right. Take flight.